Okay, another video, another day. Here we go. Today, we're going to be talking about self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is basically accepting your own strengths, your weaknesses, and your flaws. Just admitting that you are not perfect. You're going to have your ups and downs. And just getting along with that fact that you can't do anything about that and you're okay with that. And, obviously you're not going to just sit there and just stay like that. You're not just going to be freaking, I don't even know. You're not going to be lazy and not do your work. You're going to study and succeed. Your self-acceptance is becoming better. Self-acceptance isn't just acknowledging that you are you. Self-acceptance is acknowledging that you are imperfect and that you are flawed and trying to get better. Self-acceptance isn't really just staying the same. If you're staying the same, then it's more of like self-denial, because you're not willing to change. And the thing about humanity is we constantly change. We never stay the same. And if you can't accept yourself, how can you ever change? How can you ever persevere through those challenges? I don't know if I use persevere right, but how can you ever overcome those challenges of anything? Simple challenges: getting out of bed, eating, going to school, becoming social. Simple things are self-acceptance, and you don't realize it. Self-acceptance is really just being okay with being you, being okay with you. I'm looking at myself and I see so many flaws, and I'm okay with that. And constantly I try to get better. I'm not looking in this camera. I'm like trying to fix my hair. I'm not trying to get a good outfit on. I'm just like, it's whatever. Because this is like, no matter what, I'm gonna be flawed. Yeah, I'm not gonna be perfect. I'm not gonna be that. Okay, if you're looking for perfectionism, that's not self-acceptance. That's delusion, because you can't be perfect. No human will ever be perfect. They said Jesus was perfect. I'm not gonna get into religion, but there's really not many things to go off perfectionism. Like there's not really what is perfect. What is perfect even? In my eyes, perfect is just being routine, smart. Perfect is being like everything you need to be when you gotta be it. It's just being you. But when you have to be that, because I'm me, but I'm me all the time. I'm me regardless of the situation. I don't really care. That's not good. I need to matter. I need to understand that. I need to comprehend that the situation can change and alter my future depending on how I perceive myself, Depending on how I put myself out there. Self-acceptance is really coming to understanding with yourself, because there's a physical body and then there's the spiritual body, because this isn't who I am, this body isn't me, this brain probably isn't me, the person in here is me, like none of this matters. And that's what's so crazy, that's what's so interesting, that you have to come to terms with that. You have to come to terms with a lot of the things that you worry about so much on the regular basis don't matter and won't matter. And that's okay. Not in the sense that it won't matter, but in the sense that what you do right now doesn't matter. So you should go ahead and do it. Not in the sense of what you do doesn't matter. So you shouldn't do it. You know what I mean? Because I was watching a video. I was watching a YouTube video. It was talking about the meaning of life. And basically, what is this supposed to mean in 100 years, 1,000 years, a million years? It doesn't matter. It won't matter. We have to come to grounds with that. And once we come to grounds with that, we can accept that ourselves is ourselves, you know? I feel like I'm getting off topic a lot, but, you know, self-acceptance, you know? How do you deal with it? What if you can't? What if you're in constant denial? What if you're trying to constantly just stay the same? What if you're scared of change? Little steps. Little steps. You know, maybe get out of the routine. Get out of that habit. You know, maybe just little steps, you know, because you're not constantly gonna be the same, because you weren't the same person last year. You weren't the same person 6 months ago. You're you know, I also watched a video on this, and this is kind of on topic. The person who you were 10 years ago is not you. Not in the sense that isn't you physically or like anything in any way, but in the sense that like your mindset, you know, because your mindset right now, like my mindset right now is I'm making a video, like I'm like I gotta do things, like I got things to do, but like my mindset like maybe 10 years ago would have been like I gotta go outside and play, or I was in pre-K, I gotta go outside and play. I was always trying to go outside and play when I was younger. But now that I'm older, it's like so different, because your mindset change, you become change, and change is constant with humans. We constantly evolve and create. It's crazy. How do you accept yourself? How do you come to terms with that you're stuck? It's hard to think that you're stuck with yourself forever and you can't change that. Everybody's stuck, you know. When you really think about it, nobody can really do anything about that unless they were freaking, you know, changing themselves. But then again, would that be themselves? Ship Theseus, if you're wondering what that would be, that theory. Deconstructing a boat and then repairing it, would it still be the same boat if you used different materials? Anyway, how do you come to terms with the fact that you're stuck? You come to terms with a lot of things. You come to terms with you're stuck at your home. You come to terms that you come to terms with a lot of natural things. You know. So coming to terms with that you're stuck in your body isn't that big of a deal. Once you realize that the world doesn't revolve around you, you realize a lot more. And you start thinking about more. You start thinking about like what am I talking about? You know, you start questioning. You start configuring these questions, and you start pondering about other people. You're not considering that you're stuck Not even in your own body, but in your situation. Whether it's financial, whether it's relationship, whether it's in anything. You can be stuck anywhere. Accepting yourself is so much better. It's good to accept yourself before getting into a lot of things or most things or anything, because if you can't support yourself, who will? You know? Like, how do you already not be on your own side? How do you already not want to be your own supporter? You know, like everybody's gonna have one person at least that's not gonna like them. You know, nobody's gonna have somebody. Everybody. I'm trying to say everybody's gonna have somebody that doesn't like them. But not everybody's gonna be liked. Everybody can be hated. Not everybody can be liked. So always love yourself. Accept yourself. Understand that you are you, and come to the conclusion that you can change. You will change. It's determined. Regardless of your routine, what you do, you will change regardless of your mindset. It's just depending on how you see it. You know?